So ako siya gitudloan og lungag sayo sa butang mga
Mo pa crispy check na to guys. Saan siya kapuan? Oh, ah! Try. Okay lang for the moment. Yap lang. Napadalin! Wala!
Anong daghan man ikaw?
Ano na ini siya? Namitan na ipang sablay saya kay makuyawan kay siya. Sakit na? Sakit niya na? Na, mas makuyawan kay siya. Kato ka Ate Gina, pasayang kay tubag tiyahang bracelet ay banggol niya ba no?
Bawa na remate ra to. Wala mabaligi ang resibo ato.
Mura. May 30 pa to sa una dagat ato. Karon times 2 na to ba? No? 60 na to ba? Sa una pa man to. Ya 21 to no? 21k to no? Kaya no ako. Dapat to siya sing-sing tanan diri oh. Nawala na.
Sa live ni.
Saan siya na? Highlight na. Ang live gani o kasi ang lisuotin na diba?
Ate ko, ano?
Ano ka na napod mo dire? Unsa naman po yung tuyo? Mga na magkaon unta.
Ito yung sing-sing at tanan dari ba? No?
kay daghan kay tag followers ni comment diri sa ato ang mga intay kag ilingaw na daw sila sa ato ang content nga kaon-kaon mga intay. So mao ni siya ang part 2 sa katong pagluto nako sa pansit canton mga intay. Kaso ay kita mga intay sa ato ang pagkaon-kaon diri ano giginamot lang nako na siya hagay syempre limpyo man sa niya mo kamot kay gwapa kay na siya dayon niya naghinangon la sab ko dira aday inahi man gud ko day inigkaon na mga intay last minute nagtutok kay ko. Oh niya sa permerong kaon ako diya mga intay dili jud kay ko ma-enjoy kay syempre gipapuksa.
Hi guys! Sige, dito guys, pinagkantay ko mga kapap. Sige. Ano ba na kayo ka-harvest mo?
Nagpagkanan kong sili dito. Inaklaw, rakot yapong kagsugulan, makagyapon.
Dahil kay naa naman to diri sa lugar sa kumbana dahil naa diri ako ang balay na ito nakauna dyan ang mga balay na nga kapag pinaobra sa kumbana nga nagpapagawa pa siyang security dahil ito dito
May
diri
host
ang
dito tubig.
wow. Kanya mo pa ang balay dahil okay ako.
Nya, di man to kabalo anak mo si Melia. si nanay. Hanap kay sili mo. Di na kailangan ati manok. Di na naman abunuhan, no? Or abunuhan pa na. Nay!
Oh,
Kana bang sili ba? Pwede ka na itanom dito sa ibabaw?
oh, pwede. Nga naman, nakasili niya.
Wala po ko'y sili. Di man
Pwede,
may kabalo magsimilya, anak.
oh, pwede man. Basta kay nanay, makuha na sa mga kahoy. Dito, dagang pang kahoy. Bananong naman to. Ano ito magtanong naman sa nag-isprayan dahan. Ay, itananan.
Then ipainadlawan lang ba? Saan na siya? Abunuhanan pa na?
Ay, lima, no? Dito sa tambok-tambok na may tanong, tungol pa. Wala, handong lang, kinagana naman gabi. Sandong.
Mahal na ba kang sili ron?
Mahal, 500 daw.
Gani.
Ayan, puno na tayo sili. Wala na may katamnan ng sili ay kay parulihan na mong yaya ni mga prenda dito sa gibuhat. Gibutangan na mong sili sa una.
Nga naman?
Bisulan, ito na mo. Iparulihan na lang na mo. Kaya, nagmahot din ang kwarta. Ay, ilang man daw, walang pasan ka mo. May ilang trabaho. Layaan naman ng tatay dito. Then, among ibali o palit dito sa tang dito. Kalinsin ko na po dito.
Asa dapit?
Dito, itong na inubi ba? Itong na marangan. Dito man to.
Ato ilang siring?
Oo, itong itrabaho ng sipring sauna. Ito eh, payag ni kuya mo. Itong siprit ako dito, tabok sa sapa.
Kabakilid. Kabakilid man ato.
Kung na may lubi, ilang tulungan. Nang pwede may lubi, apoy marang. Yung 5 mo daw to, ina naman ang sa amin, bukang ka. Yung karong pang Abril, kita rin kung Abril maka-kwarta. Kung ano mo 15, kajis man eh. Kung ano mo 15. Karong pang Abril. Ingnan kita naman sa amin kung idayon lukot. Mga ka-ektar, kung ko.
Taga-aman tagyana.
Taga na pulan, silingan na mo sa una. Taga na pulan. Lang sa amin naman mo. At bang tagay. Barkada na anong sa amin sa una. Di na abot sa mga sa una. Ulit ako na sila. Ganyan pa to. Wala pa yung papel na ngayon. Taba. Wala yung papel.
Sabot-sabot. Sabot-sabot ra.
Sabot-sabot. Wala pa na. Kung dito ba na? Saan eh?
Ya, ang buwis anak.
Wala, buwis ka. Wala ka sa papel. Wala ba man na? Kung dito sa munisipyo. Saan eh? Saan na na? Wala na kita sa munisipyo ba? Wala kasi papel. Wala na siya. Kaning siya muna. Ang pulang-pula na.
Hindi ko nag-20.
Wala, nangyayon ba? Yung nag-hektar.
Okay, wala may. Ino ni mo kay wala man ni papel di. O sa man nimo pagkay balugduhan ni ka hektar. Wa man ni papel di ay.
Bana ra gis ko guro na ila. Sino sa amin masuito na.
Imo patakag palit og kuan oy walay tarong kuan kay. Naapalay mangusog mga anak-anak niya.
Sa ito, ingon din ni Madalihan na. Ako na, ano, selection sa dahon.
Nganong wala pa mananali imong upo nga dugay naman na.
Mga gani, umot lang, nasa na eh. Ganahan man.
Sige po guro kag inom og bugnaw.
Wala man.
Napay mong tambal.
Kurot na. Oo, naman. 30 na ito ka ba?
Tambal eh.
Ha?
Kulang ang tambal.
Pagungol, bakit sige inom tambal. Tagko, magkaya.
Nahuton man gyud to kay antibiotic man na.
Nahurot na gani. Wala na. Ang vitamin sila nabili.
Pa-check up og kuan ay lain nga kanang singanan ni para sa basig TB na na.
O, gyud ni uli ang tina. Sa dao pa lagi ko bataan. Ha?
Wato kag dao. Kadali raman anang dao. Dali raman ang dao gud.
Sa tiang guro na ng koy.
Ay, ipahilot na. Kulang kag hilot. Panuhot sad na.
Not gani.
Pahilot na ito na. Kay kanang kang Ruel. Ingon anak na. Basta ubon siya. Dugay kay mawala.
Kaya man guro kang ron.
Mao gali. Sa piang siguro na nimo. Pahilot. Ipahilot na. Kay si Ruel. Inaanak po. Basta mag-ubo.
Okay na ni. Bula na ni kapin.
Kato day ako unsa man day ito, nga piti man dugaya, bulan, muto kapin.
Wala at ka dyan. Nanapod.
Ipahilot gina kay sagol at panuhot.
Okay. Baksa lang gali kong ligo. Ay, tuyon ko. Sa una, kada alas 3 kong ligo. Alas 3, alas 4.
Panuhot gani na no.
Pero wala na ligo-ligo. Ako pang ligo ko. Pero wala. Okay. Upo mo ko.
Panuhot gani na, panuhot.
Sulay pa kung ina mo itong tambal sa rompay. Basta nga, kunin ka. Pagkakalitan mo. Ngaya ko nga ka.
Lana, ilang lana.
Pero wala naman ako hangat. Hangat punta ko. Hangat ko ko itong una. Tapos ka itong ginawa. Ining-inom ko itong vitamin. Nga, banana ang kulibaw. Alas, ito kulibaw. Huwag ka ng bula-bula. Dahil, lima. Wala ko nga. Vitamin ko nila. Ano din nasa isip ko? Vitamin. Wala ko nga. Pero kanay pag-ura ko. Napa dyan.
TV, mangguro na. Inanak ba ito kang Marilyn? Itong TV siya.
Pagod ko siya.
Oh, hagaw-haw yan tingog.
Adla. Hindi ba ka pala inom?
Palainom ba dahil si Marilyn? Sa stress niya, sa stress.
Oy. Ano pa?
Makakuan man kuna basta ma-stress ka. Maguol.
Saan tigulan?
Kana dai si Aya oh, manginginom dai na si Aya nga di man.
Ang tumay tigulan pa.
Hago, trabaho.
Ato, kasago. Hindi siya na ko nahago ron. Ibo na noon.
Matingog.
Umay sa umay noon. Gusto mo kaway? Piyang guro. Ako yung lutos niya akong bukan.
Si Pai, pahilot na sa manghihilot yun.
Gusto na naglulunod. Diray wala man. Si Manolo.
Manolo.
Si Pare. Wala na po. Kaya na mas lukan.
Ano na ito sa dughan?
Toilet ito. Baka po. Pre, luto ko pre. Anak ko daw.
Oh,
Wala po. Wala pa. Pero nila. Ay, si Anan, ay ko pala ito. Si Anan.
si Hulit di ay, si Hulit.
Oo, si Manding din. Si Anan din.
Sinunong diha, mato dai mo dito kadyot. Sinunong diha, mapato dai ka dito.
Si Manding?
Oh,
Oo, wala.
kaduol ra ana.
Ito. Wala si Manding na. Tapos ba?
Gani ka madto or mapsa nimo. Kay gabi eh.
After nagulan? Nag-ong kayo? Sorry, mag-yan sa labis sa dali. Magulit ko, no? Ako si Dili. Di ko na nagpunta yan.
Kisa manay?
Dini.
Si?
Dini.
Kisa dini.
Dini ko. Anak naman rin.
Monday nga?
Ulit.
Kisa man ato si?
Si Dini ba? Dini.
Aw, nang sa di ay?
Ay, ano ko rin mag-los niya.
Lapot?
Tumpong mo ko na.
Ala. Wa kay ayo. Bag-ulang na? Yang gilabtan?
Wala, yan. Ipupong kita mo.
Ala.
Kaya rin sa ina.
Kabuang.
Ang gamot niya, manak pukla. Pukla.
Kabuang yun niya yun.
Pukla rin, kaya may unta. Ano matagal? Ang buto. Ang buto na ayuro niya.
Sige na. Ipa na ba? Ipaadto nagdaon ng ubo nimo eh.
Sana ka magpahilot pa ko. Ang uli ag uwi na ito. Purukan mo na.
Mayabang si.
Isa?
Wagi swerte ang bayi. Mimi, YouTube. What is how to finance? What is how to finance? Good evening, guys. Ang takop kag manok. Wa kay ayo. Kung may padanon, may ayo gyud. Sao na lang man na ay. pwedeng iwanan, hindi kita pwedeng pigilan. Ipaglalaban kita kahit hanggang kamatayan man. Kung mawawala kayo, mahal na mahal kita dito sa aking puso. Oh, ikaw lang nag-iisa ang aking mahal. Mahal na mahal kita dito sa aking puso. Dari sa kalibutan, inahanraang ating sa loob umiiyak na ikaw at ako ay hindi na. Minsan pa ang hintay at malihata. Sa loob umiiyak na ikaw at ako. taong inana. Naman ito, mahilabot ko din. Mahilabot ko, mangubi ko din.
O din na mamini sa Manila.
Wala. Katong gingon ako sa anang mamahiling nga iduot kay niya ang kuan ba? Sa iyang
Yung tama.
oh. Wala siya. Muguyon na siya. Di ko maintindihan sino pang nagmamahal, siya pang naiiwan. Man ang uli ng mga bata agabi naman. Siya pang naiiwan. Kaya mo cellphone.
Charge.
Ang baby. Dari i-charge. Mano uli isinanay sa iyang ubo eh. Si TV na ba?
Magagyan si ate sa yung bubi.
Dituray.
Ha?
Dituray.
Okay, kwarta pa tala ni. Sila na padala.
Ay uno. Ihatod ra dito sa ilahan no? Anak na lang. Ihatod dito sa ilahan kuan. Ilang tindahan. I surrender.
Kung balik itong tubig.
Ah! Naba!
Bata po, pakulion.
Dara gyud ka? Panghunaw.
Oh, ito na yung Jollibee.
Panghunaw.
Ah, Ilan! Ilan ka ba? Anak ka nga po. Taguan, Jollibee. Abi na ko wala Jollibee. Ay, inasa na ka.
Panghunaw, sabi ang kamot.
On dire. Panghilaw.
Cecilia, you're breaking my heart, shaking my confidence daily. Oh, Cecilia. Looks like we this is
Bago.
Still together, still going strong. We're still around. The one that I belong to you.
Di natin. Iring, iring.
Wanang agate! Nairing! Mimig! Mimig! Mimig!
Ikaw ko, tissue ni mo! Tissue! Tissue ni mo! Sana! Chicken
There has been some injuries and a few deaths. And significantly, I think there's been a real disruption to the Gulf, which, you know,
Wala akong magagawa.
economy built on oil exports and tourism and finance and travel. All of that has been disrupted. The state of Hormuz, through which oil exports go, is largely inoperable at the moment.
Kung alam mo lang sana.
Many of them have been canceled, import stopped. And the Gulf countries, this is a scenario that they have warned the Americans about. And you said they were very much at the forefront of trying to mediate a peaceful solution to this. They have been improving relations with Iran in recent years, reducing the tensions. They had been speaking to both Iranian officials and American ones in the past couple of months, trying to organize negotiations that would prevent this outcome. They also made very clear in public that they would not allow the Americans to use their bases on Gulf soil to target the Iranians. And cases of the missiles are being fired from the aircraft carriers. So all of this
Uy, wala yung kwan.
taken to try
Kita
to
yung pinabot.
downsize or prevent this kind of direct military strikes that they're now experiencing. And they have some of the government issue very angry statements.
Bawa, try ko patong pagkakot.
Sige na, dire ba?
Inasal.
They reserve the right to respond. What exactly that might look like, I think.
Sige na, kumpi. Meron pa ma.
Sa daghan.
How long this lasts, how much damage Iran can inflict. And crucially, there's this uncertainty now, given that the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, has been killed, certainly for Iran, but also for the region, as to what changes in that country will mean for stability in the wider area.
Let's just bring you some news on what is happening in terms of UK involvement or not involvement with what's happening in Iran. We've now heard that the UK military in the region has been reported safe and accounted for. This from my colleague Jonathan Beale, who said since yesterday morning, Iran has launched 25 waves of missile and drone attacks across Israel, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Kuwait and Iraq. Yesterday, British military personnel based at a US base in Bahrain were within 200 meters of Iranian and drone missile strikes. Around 300 UK military personnel are based there, but all are reported safe and accounted for. Also yesterday, a British counter-drone unit in Iraq intercepted an Iranian drone that was heading towards a coalition base housing UK military personnel, British military personnel in Iran, who were stationed there as part of a long-standing counter-ISIS mission with 400 meters of an Iranian.
Let's eat dinner, guys.
Safe.
Let's eat.
That is the very latest that we get from UK. And just very briefly, just to bring you another update. We mentioned this before, but again, we are hearing from Iranian state media that Ayatollah Reza Arafi has been named as the person who will be leading the leadership council in the search for a new Ayatollah, a new supreme leader in Iran. That is after the killing of Ayatollah NI EMYAT. We'll have a little more information, hopefully a bit more of a idea of who Ayatollah Arafi is, what this means in a few minutes' time. But first, let's go back to the UK, because the Defence Secretary, John Healey, has said that he is concerned discrimination in Iran across the Middle East are putting British personnel and British people at risk. He's speaking to my colleague, Laura Koonsberg,
Wala ikunting.
of the death of the previous colleague.
Mama, wala may chicken.
His death, not least those friends and families of the tens of thousands of young protesters that were murdered on the streets of Iran in recent months. But make no mistake, this is a regime that he has run for decades as a source of evil. It has murdered its own citizens, it's exported terror, including to Britain. And my concern now is the increasingly indiscriminate attacks from Iran, widely across the Middle East, putting British personnel and British people, civilians at risk. And so my first job as Defence Secretary is to protect those British people, civilians and military, at British bases, reinforce regional security, and do all we can to prevent further regional escalation.
Mama, wala naman ikuan. Mama,
That's
kanina
the
yung
Defence
manok.
Secretary John Healey there talking to my colleague Laura Koonsberg. Let's bring you some more on that breaking news from Pakistan. Authorities are saying 9 people have been killed after pro-Iranian protesters clashed with police near the US southern city of Karachi. Fired tear gas to disperse a crowd trying to storm the consular buildings following news of the death of the Ayatollah Khomeini in those US and Iranian military strikes. With the latest from the war is BBC Urdu's Tahul Ashkar. After the death of Ayatollah Khomeini, soldiers arrested in different cities of Pakistan, especially 2 big cities, Lahore and Karachi. Right now I'm in Lahore, and we're also seeing a huge number of hundreds of people sitting outside of US consulate protesting, and most of the people, they belong to the Shia community. Similarly, 2 hours before in Karachi, protests erupted, and there is violent protests, bullets used tear gas. Also, the protesters are alleging that they have been using bullet shots. So a lot of people got injured and 9 people died. The force is still there, police force is there, security forces are there to stop protesters by despite entering. Still, the situation is not as under control, whereas the authorities are claiming that protesters
Sa mama ni Mana.
are away from the U.S. country.
Wait, Rachel.
Protests are being observed in Lahore and in Karachi as well.
Ikaw manggali. Binglen pa na ko si Pap. Ikaw. Meron sa
And we start talking about how the latest situation in Iran is unfold following the Israeli airstrikes there.
It could potentially get a whole lot hotter. Could get a whole lot worse this because clearly the Iranians are absolutely livid about this, the Islamic Republic regime. Although, of course, many of its citizens, many of Iran's citizens are thrilled by this and they've been cheering and celebrating because he represented so much of the aggression that has ended up killing so many of their relatives in the previous month, couple of months. I think a lot depends on how much weaponry Iran has got left. It has promised a regret-inducing punishment, as it puts it, and there are ways in which Iran could lash out at this naval force that is armada that is offshore, although that armada has got
Papa, kita ito nga.
and very good defences. One of the things that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's Corps Navy has been practicing for years is something called swarm attacks, and that's where they try to overcome the defences of a warship, a single warship, with a lot of cruise missiles. The sheer number, the sheer volume overcomes the defences. Now, if they can sink a US naval warship, that would be a huge blow. Even though the retaliation from President Trump would be huge, and indeed President Trump has threatened them this morning, today, with, don't even think of hitting back. But
Which one?
Nanangan ako kumagin na. Mas mahal ang ano din. Susupagili ang yan.
Ano yun?
Ang dito.
185.
This is chicken inasal.
Ang luto.
Chicken inasal.
Luto with drinks. Wala. Drinking cup.
Mag-European yung ang kuhaan ka ng North.
Wala yun. Sabay ito.
Naku, siya to. Wala ang pinta na.
Luto sa ba?
Mama!
Saan yung makakabusog? Ano?
Naman yung bago ron.
Dumali na naman ito.
Bugay mo mo uli. Oo, ulo. Gagan tayo.
Hello guys, kamusta? Na-miss yung me? Oo nga pala, nakalike na pa kayo sa video na to. Kung hindi pa, huwag mo kalimutan, pindutin ang like button dyan. At syempre, mag-subscribe na rin kayo para
Nicole,
Oh,
diri ra, palungan na.
Halika naman. Pandemic, may sasabihin ako sa'yo.
Ikaw lang, nagtitiktok
Palungan ng
dito
TV.
eh.
Ay, dali. Pandemic. Bigyan mo na.
Nicole!
oh.
Eh, baka pwede bumili ka naman ng cake sa labas.
Ako,
Ano
bibili lang.
naman?
Sige na.
Diri, balik ka diri.
Ano naman?
Sige na, pandemic. Sige ka, hindi matutuloy yung birthday party natin pag di ka bumili ng cake.
Liya mo ato
Ito na,
dito.
pero isa-isang
Palungan ng
condition.
TV.
Ano naman yun?
Bibigyan mo ako ng
Dili
pambili
ka
ng
tubig
cake.
ka.
Pandemic. Ikaw talaga. Lagot ka sa akin, pandemic, pag nahuli kita.
Sige na nga, aalis na ako.
Wow, Serena, ang ganda naman ng bahay mo. Kasing ganda mo. Siyempre naman, hindi pwedeng pangit. Ikaw, nasaan naman ang bahay mo? Yung bahay ko ba? Ay, mamaya pumunta tayo doon. Mas maganda rin yun. Ipagluto kita ng cookies. Yes.
Palunga na yun.
Ayan. O, sige. Tara, pupunta tayo.
Uy, bagong kapitbayan na kami yan. Ganda ng bahay nila. Hello, ako nga pala si Tagdin.
Uy, dahil dugo-dugo mo na. Uy.
Diri. Kuha ng light diri.
Dito oh. Kinatong yan.
Ano ko kagani?
Ahay, age! Halikaon kay naay klase ugma.
Okay, mama, dakot sa ugma, mama. Mama, dakot sa ugma. Hello, baby. Hello, baby, right? Ang luyod ko. Huh? Alaga ko siya. Dakot sa ugma.
Dakot sa.
Sa ugma ba?
Dali, dakot sa ugma.
Sa ugma. Ano man? Sa ugma ba?
Dakot basa. Isa.
Sa ugma?
Gani, unsa ka dakot? Aw.
Ito pala ang ganda ko.
Hi, Benjamin. Hit the likes, guys. Good evening. No. Pati lang.
Si ate.
Si ate.
Karot na.
Pinapatibay ba? Legit naman. Ikaw, ano mo dito? Ano yan? Ito yung mukha mo. Heart. Isabnan imong kamot wala. Thank you sila.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mama.
Sabang po. One nineteen, hello. Good evening. Tap guys. Pila ni sa gumalit na.
Bayad ko ba?
Pero pa kung hatag mo.
160.
200 pa kung hatag mo.
160 po. Kumain na yung loto eh.
Ako ka din.
Diyan, baik ya tinggal.
Dali na yan. Enjoy na po sila. Ay, unya na yung tanong ko ang kanip. Ay, hindi na ako paulog.
Sampai sudah ano.
Hindi na lang ako. 125, good evening. Ay, tanawa, bulimot ka ayo. Saluhan pa mo yung iring. Ah! Hindi naman yan. Ah, second batch. Kamay pa isa. Ang idibon ko. 118, good evening. Give me thumbs up, guys. Murag i-inject ang kuha na ba? Timpla doon.
Gimana ini?
Dahil i-inject kay ganyan na ibangat ako. Or sa tulungan. May aso ba? 112, good evening. Good evening. Clinton, hello. I can live my life where you want me to. Daya taon.
hata mo nanayaw. Karon gabi na.
What is that cell killing? What is that killing? Where is your anak?
Saw himself as God's representative on earth. He came to power in 1989 after the death of Ayatollah Khomeini, who'd founded the Islamic Republic 10 years earlier, becoming political and religious leader for life. Ali Khamenei is said to have been his preferred choice successor, and he continued its antagonism towards the West. He grew up in Mashhad as a claimed cleric at a young age, but not one of huge consequence. And as supreme leader, he had to build his power base. He did so by aligning himself with Iran's hardline military force,
Ask your anak.
the Revolutionary Guard. In 1997, when a moderate cleric, Mohammad Khatami, was elected president, Ayatollah Khamenei overruled his attempts to reform the system. It was he, not the president, who would decide the nation's fate.
Lying to us.
In 2009 came the first major challenge to his regime. Mass protests in response to a presidential election, but many Iranians felt was a stolen system in favour of a conservative candidate. The regime responded with deadly force, crushing the demonstrations, provoking international alarm. Then came an even bigger threat to the Islamic Republic, an uprising led by women, challenging one of the pillars of the regime, its hijab. It was sparked by the death of a young woman in custody. The response was a brutal crackdown. Ayatollah Khamenei blamed the unrest, as he always did, on outsiders, Iran's old enemies, the US, and of course Israel. But he was becoming increasingly unpopular. Economic protests, which broke out in December 2025, quickly spiraled into nationwide fury and decades of repression by the regime, headed by him. He chanted death to the dictator, referring to Ayatollah Khamenei. With thousands killed in the uprising, hatred of him only grew. One hugely unpopular policy of his rule was Iran's sponsorship of a network of proxy forces, chief of them, Hezbollah in Lebanon, meant to act as a deterrent to any Israeli attack. But what Iran called the axis of resistance was dramatically weakened in the wake of the 2023 Hamas attack on Israel, leaving Iran critically exposed. For the outside world, Iran's nuclear program was a constant concern that prompted crisis after crisis. In 2015, Ayatollah Khamenei reauthorized a deal to curb the regime's nuclear activities in return for the lifting of sanctions.
In the years since the deal was signed, Iran's aggression only increased.
But Donald Trump then pulled out of the agreement in 2018 during his first presidency, and the following year Iran began ramping up its production of enriched uranium to a level close to weapons grade. It always claimed it wanted the program for civilian purposes, not a bomb. But Israel and the US didn't believe it and bombed key nuclear sites last June. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was an ideologue who refused to yield to the pressure bearing down on him from outside the country and within. To the end, he remained a hardline defender of the Islamic Republic at great cost to so many Iranians, increasingly desperate to be freed from his rule. Caroline Wood, BBC News.
Well, let's cross line now and speak to Dr. Rowena Binti Abdul Razak, a lecturer in the history of the Middle East and Africa at Charles University of London. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us on TV. Let me start by asking you how momentous a time is this, do you think, for the Middle East now in its history?
Thank you so much for having me. It is quite momentous. First thing I will say though is Khomeini's death, while shocking in its, in the way it was carried out, was terribly surprising. He was already 86. We were all waiting for him to eventually pass on. Maybe not in this particular way, but at the same time, it was something that was already on the cards in many ways. And the fact that they've already come up with a very quick solution means that there was already a kind of succession plan in place. For the Middle East, and particularly for the region, this is very striking because Iran has now retaliated against the Gulf states. This is something quite new. They're no longer US military bases. So there is a very likely chance that it might spiral into more instability as well as increased tensions in the immediate region of the Gulf.
In what sense? How do you think things could get worse?
It could get worse if the UAE in particular retaliates by attacking Iran directly. This is not unlikely, but at the same time we know that Oman and Qatar, the two countries who have been spearheading for a diplomatic solution, have also called for negotiations to continue. If they keep their level head and people kind of follow, and the other countries follow their lead, it might not escalate, but at the same time, it's not unlikely we do see retaliation by US and Israeli forces against Iran, or the UAE themselves getting involved
And
directly.
yeah, of course, if that carries on, that escalation carries on, it could have some pretty catastrophic consequences.
It could definitely have, more casualties, which is obviously something no one wants. It could also cause, we're already seeing the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. We're seeing traffic in the Straits of Hormuz being halted in many ways. So this could also lead to economic chaos as well. We're obviously seeing chaos in terms of travel and in terms of airspaces being closed. So you can already see the chaos ensuing. Catastrophic, one really, really hopes not. And at the same time, we hope that this will be a limited regional conflict.
I want to go back to what you said at the beginning about the Supreme Leader and the fact that there were people waiting for him to basically die. There is a different vibe, isn't there, when someone is killed in this way, and a different kind of power play. And I think it's important to underline that he was obviously killed by Israeli and US. Does that not make it have a different feel to it in terms of the consequences?
Definitely, it forces a change. It forces a change that maybe was going to happen eventually, but it forces for change to happen at a time when the Islamic government was already on shaky ground. It's built on quite shaky legitimacy at this point, especially after the years of protests that the Iranian government has been facing from its people. At the same time, it's also going to really put to the test how resilient the Islamic government that is. Because it has shown resilience over the years despite loss of a regional allies and so on. Yeah, so we'll have to just see. But of course, if everything does happen,
What I'm trying to get at is that if your supreme leader is killed by foreign forces, that kind of shows, in a way, a weakness within the regime, right? Rather than if he died by natural causes. The deaths are very different in how they kind of expose the vulnerabilities of the regime, right?
Of course, and it speaks very much to the lack of security forces. Everyone's wondering why Khamenei was still in his residence at this very critical time. Everyone knew that an attack was coming at some point, and the US and Israel had not been hiding the fact who they were targeting, and so on. So it is quite surprising. And yes, of course, this is definitely an exposure of its vulnerability. And as I said, has forced Iran to look for this new succession plan that it's been looking at for many years now.
Dr. Marina Binti Abdul Razak from SOAS, University of London, it's been so good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Airlines serving the Middle East have cancelled and diverted many flights after the US and Israel launched those deadly strikes on Iran. British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, Wizz Air, they're amongst the carriers to pare back their scheduled destinations in the Middle East, citing safety concerns. Well, this has caused chaos across the region, with passengers stranded and unable to reach their destination. Well, let's cross live to our correspondent Barry Caffrey, who is at Heathrow Airport. Barry, what's the situation in terms of flights and airlines going in and out of those Middle East regions?
Hi, Mariam. Yes, well, as you said, at Heathrow Airport, a number of flights have been cancelled. Etihad, Emirates, Qatar Airways, British Airways and Virgin Atlantic have all cancelled flights to Dubai, as well as Doha and Abu Dhabi, and flights to Tel Aviv, situation right across the UK. But in relation to those three main Middle East hub airports, Doha, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, there were usually 2,500 flights a day from those three hub airports, and that represents approximately 500,000 passengers every 24 hours that are having their plans disrupted. Of course, the planes are able to fly over Iranian or Iraqi airspace, and even people that are traveling from further afield, for example, if they were in Bangkok or somewhere like Australia trying to get back to London and they're connecting via Dubai, well, those flights will be cancelled. Now, many passengers will be wondering what to do. The situation depends whether or not you're travelling with a European or a non-European airline. So if you're travelling with someone like British Airways or Virgin Atlantic trying to get back to London, then that airline is responsible for getting you back here. If you are travelling with a non-European airline, well, the advice is to check with that airline. In some cases, they will try and get you back, but they're not legally obligated to do so if you're based here in the UK, and the advice would be to check with your travel insurance. But if this disruption continues for the coming days, we could see a similar scale that we had with the volcanic ash cloud, people may remember, back in 2010. But at the moment, tens of thousands of passengers right around the world affected at those three key Middle East airports, Doha, Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Normally 2,500 flights a day from those three hubs, around 500,000 passengers that are having their plans completely disrupted by this situation.
Do we know time frame wise how long this will carry on for? Do we have any idea?
At the moment, Marianne, we don't have an idea. Dubai International Airport has completely suspended operations there. They've said that they are monitoring the situation. All of the airlines I mentioned, including British Airways and Virgin Atlantic here in the UK, a number of those airlines have cancelled flights to Tel Aviv for the next couple of days. And we're expecting cancellations to the region, to Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Doha also for the coming days. We're expecting an update from Qatar Airways who operate out of Doha. But the expectation is that this disruption will last at least for the coming days.
Sorry, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, let's stick with those travelling in and out of the region. About an hour ago, we were speaking to three people who are in the Middle East region right now, who were talking to us about what they've experienced. Let's bring them back. We were interrupted last time. Stevie George, who's returned to Bahrain, where he used to own a bar. We also have John Henry, who is in Doha on holiday, and Trevor Davies, who is on holiday and staying at the Atlantis, the Palm. Thank you, all of you, for joining me once again after we were interrupted last time. So, Stevie, if I can go to you first, just explain to viewers who may have just joined us what your situation is. And, you came back to Bahrain, and this must be, quite frightening to hear these sirens and these explosions.
Well, it is, especially when you're unsure of what is going to follow. The sirens do go off, the alerts go on the mobile phones, it's all very efficient, so you're aware something is going to happen, and then there's a delay, there's a silence, and you're sort of just waiting to see if anything's going to be near you or further across the island. Luckily, I'm in Japan, I'm in the area that a lot of people have been asked to leave from the Fifth Fleet base. But to be fair, there was one huge explosion yesterday, and then a lot of it has been smaller, localised explosions and drones hitting not only military bases, but residences, civilian residences and hotels in the area. So it's that